Hi everyone, this video is going to go through the periodic table. So you've probably seen the periodic table hanging up in your science classroom, but in this video we're going to explore the different groups of the periodic table. So the periodic table is structured like this. Each column is a group of elements and each row is what we call a period. Now the periodic table can be divided into three main groups. We have our metals, we have our semi-metals shown here in purple, and we have our non-metals, which appear towards the right-hand side. So we'll start on the left-hand side in group 1. And these are our alkali metals. So these include elements such as lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, and cesium. Now these particular elements are incredibly sensitive to water. If we were to get some of these elements wet, well, we'd have explosive results. The other thing is that even though we call them metals, they don't actually act like metals that we think of because they're very fragile and can break very easily, and they also have very low melting points. The next group is group 2, referred to as our alkali earth metals. So these include beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, and barium. Now, these elements are also reactive with things like water and air, but if you're expecting an explosion, well, you're going to be disappointed. While these metals may appear shiny at the start, after a period of time, they actually get quite dull. The next major group is our transition metals, so these take up the majority of our periodic table. Some of the transition metals you may be aware of include things such as gold, silver, and mercury. Now, most of these elements are going to be very, very strong compared to other elements. They're also going to be very good conductors of electricity, and we can hammer them into different shapes and sizes, and we call that being malleable. The next group is our group 16 elements, and these are referred to as the chalcogens, or our chalk formers. So those include things such as oxygen, sulfur, selenium, and tellurium. What's interesting about this is we have both non-metals and semi-metals in the same group. So oxygen, sulfur, selenium are our non-metals. Oxygen we should all know very well. It is a gas and it is essential to our breathing. We breathe it in every day. But it is also an essential element to things such as fire or combustion. Now sulfur, you may have heard of it. This is an image of what it looks like. It kind of looks like honeycomb, but I wouldn't coat it in chocolate and call it a crunchy. It may not end so well if you were to eat it. Group 17 is our halogens. And in this group, we have elements such as fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. Now, what's really interesting about this group is that we have different elements in different states. So fluorine and chlorine are a gas, bromine is a liquid, and iodine is a solid. Now, these elements are all non-metals, and they are very, very reactive. In fact, these were the original salt bays because we like to call them salt formers. So you probably heard of something called sodium chloride, which is just regular table salt. But we can have these elements reacting with things like hydrogen to form very corrosive acids, like hydrochloric acid. The final group on our periodic table is group 18, and these are our noble gases. So these include the elements helium, neon, argon, krypton, not kryptonite, and xenon. Now, these are called noble gases for a reason because every other element on the periodic table wants to be like them, and These elements don't like to associate with any others. We know from helium from being in balloons, these are not reactive at all. If we were to try and react them, this is the type of reaction that we would get from these particular elements. So that's the periodic table. In the next few videos, we're going to look at how these elements interact and react with one another. Thanks for listening.